Most people that travel in RVs do it for pleasure, not for business. If you're a business user, then internet connectivity is very important. But if you're a casual RV traveler, it's not all that important. You don't need it 100% of the time. We don't need all that high dollar equipment to ensure 100% connectivity. Instead, we can use the consumer products, which are much cheaper. For example, my LTE modem costs $89, and my Wi-Fi repeater costs $30. And the external antennas cost $15 each. So there is a much more reasonable way to approach this problem than spending thousands of dollars. If you intend to remain at one location for extended period of time, then a directional antenna may be to your serving because it'll allow you to get a stronger signal at that one location. I spent 20 years in the Navy working in electronics and communications, and I know all about antennas. And trust me, a lot of the antenna hype is just that, it's hype. Don't get sucked in by all the fancy numbers and digits because they mean nothing when it comes to actual operation. So what I want to do is go over some of the various connectivity options you have in an RV. Then I want to show how I do mine, which meets most of my requirements. First of all, we'll discuss the various methods of connecting to the internet from your RV. These systems are shown here in this drawing. And then we'll narrow it down to what's inside my RV and how things work in my RV. So let's get started. First of all, let's address the topic of 4G versus 5G cell towers. To watch a typical high-definition movie requires 5 megahertz of download speed, yet they want you to believe you need hundreds of megahertz of download speed. So what's going on here? There's an ulterior motive, obviously, because unless you go to watch hundreds of videos at the same time, 4G is more than adequate. So I suspect there's some other things, such as corporations and government trying to build a nationwide 5G network so they can use it to their advantage. It's not about you watching what you want to watch on your internet connection, so don't be fooled by this 5G. It seems apparent to me that if they can hard sell you that you need 5G, then all you cell phone users out there are going to pay for this infrastructure which builds the 5G. So basically you're paying to build the system that the government and the corporations want to use down the road for artificial intelligence and autonomous operations. That's my opinion. You can have your own opinion. I'm just stating my opinion here. Up here in the middle we have the internet backbone. Some people call it the cloud, whatever you want to call it. And we have a landline coming over here to a cell ISP, cellular data ISP. So this ISP has landlines connected to a cell tower distribution point, and then there's landlines going to all the hundreds or thousands of cell towers out there. We're going to talk about the 4G towers today. So that's how your LTE modem gets back to the internet, through this path. Another option people can use is satellite internet connection. And here we have a landline coming down to a satellite company. They have a landline going over to their ground station uplinks. And then you have a satellite receiver that you use to receive the internet. And this connects you through this system back to the internet backbone. Another more common method is the telco ISP, telephone company. And this is going to represent any location. It could be your home, could be an RV park, could be any place. But that's what this represents. Some telephone company provider has a landline back to the backbone. Then you have a landline over to their DSL modulator, which modulates the internet data on a regular telephone line, which comes down to your system, and your DSL modem demodulates it, and that's how you connect back to the internet. Another method is a broadband ISP. They have a landline coming to them, then they have a landline going to their broadband tower. They broadcast RF frequency out into the air, and if you have a broadband modem configured for them, then it picks up the signal. And this is how your path goes back to the internet. And probably the most common is a cable ISP. Have a landline going to them, and then they have a landline going to your home. And here you have a cable modem, which demodulates. So now you talk to the internet through this path. So that's the various methods of connecting to the internet. So now let's discuss the cell phone connection, because that's what we're going to spend most of our time on. First of all, I want to point out what looks like a typo error, but it isn't. This is a result of the CorelDRAW version 7, the old version I use. The display character generation is not as accurate as the final product. Therefore, it had these gaps and spaces in it. So it's supposed to read alternate for use with weak LTE or to save data. That's what it should say. Since I screen captured this thing, I didn't notice that, so I just want to point that out. I chose this router for 4 reasons. First of all, the Alcatel is notoriously known for having good Wi-Fi signal reception and transmission. Second of all, it was under $100, which was one of my criteria. And the third reason was that there's no batteries involved. It runs on AC power. I have AC power 24 hours a day in the RV to keep the refrigerator running. So to me, getting rid of the battery hassle was a good thing. And the fourth reason I chose this particular LTE router is because if you look over here, there's a LAN WAN jack, and we'll show you in a few minutes what that means. But basically, I can bring in Wi-Fi signals when I don't have cell tower available. There's also a LAN jack, so I can plug in an external secure router if I choose to have more security in my connectivity. And the system, my RV system, won't know the difference. So that's the 4 reasons I chose this particular LTE router. I almost forgot there's also a very important 5th reason I chose this router, and it has to do with external antenna jacks. If you notice over here, there's pop-off covers, and there's an antenna jack, one on each side, for external antennas. That way I can have an antenna outside of the RV. So those are actually the 5 reasons that I chose this particular LTE modem router. This little $30 repeater is also in my van, and that's how I collect Wi-Fi signals from RV parks and nearby establishments. Here's an overview picture of the unique little device. It's small but mighty, let me assure you. Here's an overview of the 4 functions the device is capable of. I use the repeater mode, but instead of repeating to Wi-Fi, I repeat to the LAN jack and send it over to the LTE modem, which we talked about earlier. And last but not least, you can easily configure your own VPN to be used automatically by this repeater. On the front of the LTE router, we have these 5 lights. The left light is power indicator. The second light is the router's ability to broadcast Wi-Fi. The third light has something to do with the telephone. I have no idea what that is. The fourth light has to do with internet connectivity. And then the 5th light is the cellular signal strength. It's actually signal-to-noise ratio, but that's a technical term. So what I want to point out here is that this internet light, that'll be red if you don't have LTE access to the internet. You could still have access from a LAN jack, and this light will be red. So don't trust that light if you have a repeater connected like I do. The light only indicates you have cellular connectivity to the internet, but you also may have repeater connectivity to the internet through Wi-Fi. So now we understand that this Wi-Fi repeater LAN cable running over to the WAN cable on the LTE modem provides alternate Wi-Fi connectivity to the internet in case you can't get the LTE signal that's strong enough. You can also see that the Wi-Fi repeater picks up its signal from the Wi-Fi modem of a nearby subscriber, either an RV park or some other entity which provides you with the Wi-Fi connectivity to the internet. If you've never been hacked, then you don't understand my reason for having a private secure router shown here. This router will keep people out of your devices inside your van. About 3 years ago, my home was hacked, seriously, and they went in and changed all my passwords, my bank accounts, my Amazon accounts, my email accounts, all this stuff. They locked me out of all of them. Fortunately, they weren't trying to steal from me, because they could have certainly stolen from me with the knowledge of my passwords. So after that happened, I was finished with this trusting generic routers and things. I want a powerful router, and I found a powerful router, and I spent a couple years learning how to use it. And that router is a MikroTik router, and it costs $22 at Amazon. It's very low cost, but it's capable of any other router ever made. The problem with it is it has a steep learning curve, and I've created a lesson series on how to learn that steep learning curve, and it can be found here. So I'm very, very conscious of using a private secure router in addition to the modem routers. My connectivity was from LAN to WAN. Just run a cable between the LTE modem LAN jack to the WAN jack of my secure router. And then my users connect to my secure router over here. And that never changes no matter where I connect. And I do not use this connectivity over here because that has lesser security. So that's my personal preference, to have a private secure router. And if you want to learn more, check out the YouTube channel that was pictured above. So in closing, so far I've been satisfied with this 4G LTE antenna from Amazon, and it only costs $11. My Wi-Fi antenna is shown here, and it costs $15, once again from Amazon. So I believe this is all you need. It just makes sure that your antennas are outside of the van. We're not worried about any radical antenna gains, any of that stuff. It's just for typical applications and typical situations. So this concludes this video. There may be additional videos in the near future demonstrating how to configure both of these devices.